Good morning guys, welcome to Flory Models Daily Vlog. Here we're on Thursday. Wow, busy week this week, really busy. Again, thank you very much to Ron yesterday. It was great to have a bit of company here in the studio, working through it all. As I said, it's a full day's worth of editing to put that together. So I've worked on a little bit this morning, going to do a little bit more this afternoon. Hopefully it'll be up with you tomorrow. Not 100% sure. To be honest, I've got loads of editing to catch up on. Obviously I've still got to do the show, the Huddersfield show. I want to get that one done for tomorrow and loads of other bits of review. So in a moment, to sort of get up onto speed and get me ahead, we're going to be doing this bad boy. Now let's face it, it's 110 quid. It's got a lot to look up to. It's got a lot to answer for because quite frankly it's caused a bit of a storm in the forums, as we know, and things like that. So what I'm going to do is try and take pretty much a relaxed view of it. As I said, what I don't like to do is to go along and read other people's reviews. That's something I have never ever done. And I know sometimes I get a little bit of flack for it. People say I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm not a sheep like the other guys out there who will go and look at everybody else's review, take all the negative points and throw it at a kit. I tend to like to look at a kit from that thing when we were all young, where you would open up a kit for that first time when you got it home and go through all the parts without all the negativity of the nose is the wrong shape and it's got this problem and that problem and it's 107 quid and there's another one coming out soon that's going to be cheaper. Is it going to be better? We don't care about that really. What we're more interested in is on this kit, seeing exactly what it is, what's wrong with it, what's right with it, but really we're just trying to see where this 110 quid comes from. Is it because it's got brand new everything in there? It's a lot of money involved with it, a lot of tooling, a lot of aftermarket bits in there and stuff like that. Or is it just a new tool, overpriced kit? Let's find out. Okay, so I've just literally finished reviewing the fallback. To be honest, I had to do it twice. But a problem with one of the cameras, I've had to do it. Now you guys know, you'll spot it in editing, the continuity problems. But instead of redoing everything, I've just done the actual sprues because one of the cameras, the close-up one, failed. So that's the trouble, you have to come back and then do it all again. Anyway, we've sorted that one out and working our way through. So there we go, that is the fallback. I'm not going to spoil it, the review will be up with you tomorrow. All I will say is, I can understand now why it's 107 quid. That's what I'm going to give away. So watch the review and you'll see all about that one. So now I have got to go and do the orders. I'm hopefully going to catch up with all the orders. Apologies if they are a day or two late, because obviously we're away Tuesday. We're running one day behind with your orders, getting them out. So if you are expecting one, especially in the UK, I know normally we are next day service, we are running a day or two late. Hopefully by the end of the day, I will have caught up with them, but as a lot of you know, it's all back on me now. The sales team, it's all come back in-house. The big announcement about that next week anyway. So I'm having to do the lot, which I don't mind doing because it's quite nice. So anyway, I'm going to get this edited up, finish off the orders, and we're going to move through like that. But today, as a little bit of a thing, Hans, who's having a go now at having a go with filming and with a camera, he's getting a bit of a taste for it, and he's actually enjoyed doing it, which is the main thing. So I'm going to leave you with little Hans's update for Thursday and his little review section and things like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set him up with his own day, and it will be like Hans' day for doing these things, and then he can help me out a bit with some of the little projects that we got coming on in the future as well. So there we go, that's it from me today. I'm going to leave you with Hans, and I'm going to catch you all tomorrow.
So here we are with another update on the Su-25 M1 Sukhoi that I'm working on. And before we do any serious painting on the digital scheme, I thought I'd take a step back. That they use are unguided rockets. In this particular case, we're looking at UB32 rocket pods, basically meaning 32 unguided rockets sitting in these pods that they use for a ground attack role. We'll talk a little bit about how we actually went through this and made these pods a little bit more presentable. Out of the box, they're fairly rough. They have some fairly deep sink marks on the inside. Let's see if we can show you that right now. But you might be able to see inside a little bit lighter color sink mark that was filled up with the Tamiya thin cement and then some bits of sprue that were melted down and then applied on the inside, and then we just sanded those down lightly and just kept polishing and polishing until we got a nice even surface. The other thing that we did is and we'll just go through this one at a time here. Let's see if we can get this right. Come on, right there. You might be able to see some of the vent holes were all drilled out one at a time, and the way to do that is using a little pin vise like this. I particularly like these because they actually rotate like that. Very easy to apply, and just go back and forth like that and make a small hole. This particular case, there's a number 80 drill bit in there. You can barely probably see that even. It's a nice handy set to have is these little NK sets. Various manufacturers out there. It doesn't have to be this particular brand. This particular set has number 61 all the way up to the smallest that they carry is a number 80 bit. And as you can see, they're quite nice. Super sharp, very easy to drill with in plastic. There are various other manufacturers out there. That's what I'm using, and basically went through all the little depressions that are molded in by trumpeter, and then just picked them out one at a time, drilled them all out as we went, just to provide a little bit more detail throughout that area. The other thing that we did is we restored the, let's see if we can show you that, is this particular, let's see, panel line right there. There is an actual panel line right here, and what I have in my hand right now is a UMM, the small scriber. Very handy little set. SCR02 is what I use. I usually start with this and try to find a panel line again that I've slightly erased, and basically reset that line as best as I can. I do use either Dymo tape or a flexible ruler just to make sure that that line is straight. And then once that's done, I use my UMM razor saw, and it has two sides, a very fine side on this side and a little bit more rougher cut on that side. And I'll start with the very fine blade and basically deepen out that particular panel line. I particularly like this blade because it actually makes a square cut and resets that panel line correctly. If that doesn't work, I do have a scriber that's extremely sharp and makes a straight or a square panel line. This one comes from, I believe it's Scale Auto, and I'll look it up and I'll make sure I write down and provide all that detail for you guys. Quite handy. It will actually pick that line. As you can see, it already locked in, and I just pull lightly. I don't press on it, I only pull on it and pull through that panel line. The other one that I do use is a Mr. Paint panel line scriber. Pretty decent scriber, not perhaps as good as the Scale Auto one, but another one that sets a square line. This is the black version, but it does create a square panel line. We'll just keep working those, and then I'll slightly polish it up, and then go over it again and pull the spoils out. And once we have a good line, eventually what I'll do is I'll touch it with some to me extra thin cement, just lightly touching the line. I'll let the capillary action work. It zips around the line, let it harden overnight, and then lightly polish it up again with these polishing sticks right here, green and white sides. These come out of China, pretty cheap to use. Various other sanding sticks that I use to get it all the way polished up. You can see the seam line, you might see it, but that was actually filled in right there, but it's perfectly smooth. Anything with eventually using metallizers, you better be super smooth. And then the last thing that we did is right in the center. Let's see if we can pick that up right there. You can see the little holes For the center tubes, those were drilled out just to give a little bit of depth. And then the last things that we did on this, let's put that back right there, is doing some riveting. And basically I'll reset any kind of rivet that I've erased with this dental pick. They're super sharp, just to get you a center punch, if you want to call it that. Make sure that that's set correctly at the right distance, and so on, in a place that I can find. And then ultimately I go back to this particular, let's see if we can grab this and put that out of the way. This guy right here, very nice little riveting set, also available from UMM. I'll put a disclaimer on here, I'm not affiliated with UMM, but I buy a lot of their tools. I love their store, and kind of a little tool nut, if you will. Very handy to have. Goes from a super small, almost 72nd scale rivet all the way into well beyond 32nd, probably 24 scale rivets, if you want to look at it that way. And then basically individually I'll go through here and punch all these rivets back in by hand. Don't usually use this little palm holder, if you want to call it that, you know, but it gives you a little extra pressure. I think by just doing it, just holding these just like that, prevents or it gives you enough pressure to make a little indentation and not deform the plastic. So that's what we've been working on, and just prepping these rocket pods. And then the next step is we're going to talk a little bit about making sure that it's all nicely clean and ready for primer painting. So here we are getting ready to get our primer coat on, and before we even start talking about paint primers and all that good stuff, one of the things to do is take your rocket pod, and what I use is one of these old toothbrushes, and basically make sure that all the dust, all the sanding, spoils get pulled out. Make sure that you blow some air through there, make sure that there's absolutely no dust hidden anywhere or left over or stuck on, and just brush it out of there. Any kind of little panel lines, you know, rub it through there, get rid of it. And then the next thing that I tend to do is, since you're picking it up with your hands, there's usually some oily residue on there. So I take a cotton swab, dip it in some, to me, a lacquer thinner. It doesn't have to be soaking wet. I usually press it and drain it off of there, and just lightly rub over the plastic, and make sure you go in all the nooks and crannies. And what this does is it basically removes any kind of fingerprints, grease, any kind of leftovers from while you were building, holding it. And as it dries, some of its shine. And what you're doing is you're providing a key to the plastic, so the paint will actually adhere to it, and you've removed all your fingerprints. Now the big trick is I use my little vinyl gloves and a cocktail stick, and that's to prevent from putting fingerprints back onto it. So from now on, bare hands, no more. Same thing with this guy. We'll just lightly rub it. Doesn't take much. It's a little black paint that actually leaked through the seam when we painted these guys black on the inside. This is also a good opportunity to check one more time, because it's very shiny, to see if there's any kind of mist, places where there's a seam not quite solid, filled in, any kind of riveting that you might have missed for whatever reason. So there's all that. Hopefully the compressor doesn't make too much noise in the background. But as you can see, it evaporates very quickly, Don't have to do too much to it. But there you have it. So it's now prepped for paint. Make sure that you shake your paint. I use these RedWire paint shakers. I usually run these a good minute, which we did before we started taping this. I usually do it while my compressor fills up with air and comes up to working pressure. I do have, you might be able to hear that, little steel ball bearings in there. Very handy to have. I would highly recommend you do that. Just gives a better mix all around. Make sure you mix your paint. And then what we'll do is we'll grab one of these. I really like these kind of guys. Little pipette. These are glass rather than plastic, so it lasts a lot longer, especially when you're working with hot paints. Not in this particular case, but we'll put some in the color cup. And I usually tend to do this by feel, so I can't say exactly, but we're going to shoot for about 60 thinner, 40% paint mix is where I usually start off at. And we'll go with 2 drops of this, to me, acrylic paint retarder. It's fairly dry today here in Colorado, believe it or not. So that will help give the paint a little bit more time to self-level. So we'll get that out of the way right there. And then we'll take our mixed paint and tend to use this little technique. Just use a cocktail stick and just pour against the cocktail stick, and it will just drip right in. And I just kind of look at how much we're filling up. Done this enough times where I kind of have a pretty decent feel of it. We'll start with that. Get that out of the way. And then, quite important, take that. Doesn't have to be a cocktail stick, can be an old brush, if you will. Make sure that it's stirred up. Otherwise, all you do is just spray a lot of thinner, and you just lost your thinner to paint ratio. Just stir it up like that. Get this out of the way so we have a little bit better view. We'll do a quick little test spray against an old box just to see if the air pressure is good and we're pulling paint. Looks like we're doing good. And then all we do is, let's get that out of the way so we don't get overspray on that. I'm running about 12 to 15 psi. I use a 0.15 needle most of the time in my painting. And all we do is just trigger in some paint. And you can see very light passes. All we're doing is providing another surface for the paint to adhere to. I'm not trying to get a nice even coat on right away. There we go. There's that guy. Put that out of the way for now and shoot the next one. And these coats dry up very, very quickly, so you can apply one after another. But we'll show you a little more. Get that out of the way here. Get this guy. Same trick. Start away from the piece you're airbrushing. Just push in air and then pull back, and then hit the surface and lightly pull in air. Go past it and let go. You don't want to do it while you're right at the surface. You get all sorts of little splatters, uneven paint. I tend to just go back and forth and have an even airflow once I've found my spot. And I don't vary the air pressure at all or the amount of paint that I trigger in. just do one pass like that. Just take my time. Just lightly roll it around. Make sure that we get the whole thing done. Make sure that we got these guys right there. One last little pass. And that's basically your first coat right there. So now we're ready to apply the second coat. Now that we have our tack coat on, it'll be a little heavier. We'll just double check flow. And we'll just shoot the next color on. As you can see, we're a little bit further away, a little bit more paint being triggered in. Just making sure that I don't stop my airbrush anywhere at all. Keep rotating the piece, never stop anywhere so we don't flood the paint anywhere. Just lightly. And there's your second coat. Starting to look pretty good. We'll let that harden for less than a minute and we'll shoot our next coat. Now that we have a pretty decent layer on there, we'll start filling in and making sure that we get a good even coverage. Same trick. You just go back and forth and just start building it up gently. And getting that color in there, making sure that we're evenly coated all the way through. You can see it's starting to gloss up. And looks like we're there. Nice gloss coat, even, no drips, no splats, no nothing. So there we are with our base coat, ready for some all-clad. And off camera, I'll shoot some black right in here, and then we'll start moving towards all-clads. We'll leave these to dry for about 15 minutes or so, and then I'll just do a quick check, see if they're hardened up enough. Usually that's all it takes, and we can start shooting some metallics. So we're ready for some all-clad treatments on these rocket pods. Doing a little bit of research on the net as always, double checking some references, and most of these pods are quite dirty, to be honest. They're not very well maintained, and it's kind of a dull aluminum coating that's on there. They tend to have some rust streaks on them, various color shades to them. The only aircraft that have these beautifully shiny aluminum pods are the ones that you see at air shows. So I took two color shades out. One is ALC 117 dull aluminum and ALC 103 dark aluminum, and we'll start out with those two ones and see how we get along. So as always, all-clads tend to separate very, very quickly. Make sure you shake these guys around. We'll start off with this dull aluminum as the overall shade and see how we make out. So as always, if your airbrush ready, I use my little cocktail stick to use to just drip some paint into the color cup. You really don't need a lot. Again, I spray about, right now we're at about 12 to 15 psi max. As you can see, that's about all the paint I use. We'll just get the flow going, double check. Maybe have about half a trigger air and about half paint. Get this guy out of the way so we don't get overspray. And as always, I tend to start at my fingertips, pull in the air, pull in some paint, and slowly but surely Again, very light dusty coat. We don't want to flood this at all. And we've made it around one side. Barely see the color starting to develop. All clad tends to dry extremely quickly. If it's not drying fast enough, just a little bit of air over it, dry it up, and we'll start the next coat. Just gently blowing it in. Building up that color. And get the tip done. Starting to look pretty good. Dry it off again. Next layer. A little bit quicker. A little bit more paint. Let's fill that in a little bit. And let's have a look here. Starting to build up quite nicely. We'll let that dry and get the other one going. So next up is a little bit of tonal variation in the color shades. So we'll start using this ALC 103 dark aluminum next. Again, we're using very little paint. Right there. Let's trigger in some paint into the airbrush. Make sure we get some flow. There we go. Let's get rid of this guy here. We're just gonna just airbrush a little color variation in there. It's probably going to be very difficult to see on camera, where these vent holes tend to kind of get burnished, kind of a darker look to them, so we'll darken that up a little bit. There we go. Usually these fronts get a lot of blowback as the rockets leave the tubes. We'll just airbrush in the airflow as the rocket leaves. There we go. Let's see if we can pick that up on the camera. Let's try this. And we'll do some zooming in, so hold on 1 second. Right there. You can kind of see some of those little blends starting to come through. Let's see if we can zoom better than that, huh? Pretty tricky today. There we go. That's some nice blends in there. See some of the details starting to pop through. Quite happy with that. Alright, we're done with the first one. We'll do the next one. The last thing we'll do is do a quick blend, just so it doesn't look so stark. For that I'll use ALC 119 airframe aluminum, quite high gloss, but it will tone that down a little bit. These really dark differentials, just very lightly, just a very quick coat. Still trying to preserve that dull look just where we got a little bit too much darkness, we'll just tone it down just a hair. There's that one. And we'll zoom in. See if we can get a good shot right there. There we go. See just slight tonal variations coming through quite nicely. So there you have it. Let's see if we can get that caught up in here. There you go. Quite happy with that. 2 rocket pods done. Thanks.